Welcome to Weaponized News with your hosts, Stuart Webb and Sam Cheney. Fighting the international bankers' one world government scientific dictatorship. Break the mind control. Be the change you want to see in the world. And now it's time for Weaponized News.
Welcome to Weaponized News on 1680 AM here in Fresno, California. I'm your host, Stuart Webb, along with my co-host, Sam Cheney. Folks, we got a 2-hour broadcast ahead of us. We have a special guest. He's been on the show before. His name's Joe Biggs. He's a reporter for Infowars.com. Joe, how you doing today?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
Well, we've seen you do a lot of things that the mainstream media continues to not do over the last couple months, and since you've been a reporter for Infowars, so we appreciate that. I had a couple things I wanted to get in with you today. A couple specifics. You went to Chicago a couple months back or a couple weeks back to investigate some reported black sites. Now, most people know what the Chicago Blackhawks are, but most people don't know that they have that in Chicago there's also black sites in their neighborhoods. And the mainstream media is not reporting on this. I believe it was The Guardian who broke this, and then you guys picked up on it, and you actually went to these black sites and did some investigations, and basically you were treated like, an enemy combatant doing a report on a public, sidewalk. Tell us a little bit about what you saw there, and have they shut down the site yet? I mean, I know there were protests after you guys started reporting on it, but man, how is this happening in America in some of the largest cities? I mean, like you said, if it's happening in Chicago, it's probably happening in other places.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Homan Square is just, it's mind-blowing to know that something like this is up and operational. And one of the things that people fail to realize is one of the guys who worked there was also an interrogation guy at Guantanamo Bay. So you can kind of see how those same tactics have bled over into the streets of Chicago. There are reports of numerous people who have been just essentially picked up and thrown into this Homan Square without being able, afforded the right to contact a lawyer, to make any calls, to do anything whatsoever. And when something like that happens, you got to think, that's got to be a scary situation to be in. Some guys in military gear just grab you, throw you in the back of a vehicle, and the next thing you know, there's a bag, that gets pulled off your head, and you're sitting in some torture site. Multiple people said they heard screams. There were reports that they were shackled to walls. One guy had his his private area stomped on. One lady was chained to a bench for 3 days and told that she was going to get a tour of hell.
Wow. No due process.
And like you said, no one there knows what that is. Everyone knows what the Chicago Blackhawks are, but no one knows about the Chicago Black site. It's a very true statement. I went and did some man on the streets and talked to people out there. Only a small handful of people even had an idea as to what I was talking about.
It's incredible. And so Chicago has some of the strictest gun control laws in the country now, don't they, Joe?
Yeah. And then you have Mayor Rahm Emanuel. That's, Obama's old buddy right there.
Chief of staff, chief of staff.
Do what?
Yeah, his old chief of staff, right?
Yeah. So, the stuff that's going on there is just out of control, And when I went up there to approach the building and ask them, hey, why are you guys doing this? Why are you holding these people here illegally? Why are you not letting them contact the lawyers? Why are you using these Guantanamo-style tactics on American citizens who essentially some of them were told not to say anything after they were released? It sounds like some stuff that you would see overseas in theater and combat. This is definitely not something that should be operational in America. And, and when you think about it, if there's something like that operational here in Chicago, then, there's got to be another place.
Yeah, so was it just Chicago PD with other agencies, or was it, from what you saw, was it a lot of just undercover police? Who knows, right? At this point, it could be NSA. There's so many alphabet agencies. It could have been any agency, right?
Yeah, exactly. Most of the guys that work there are all in civilian attire, and when they go outside the wire, so to say, when they leave their compounds, they're either in civilian cars wearing golf attire, or the ones who go out and do these, warrantless no-knock raids and just capture people are, in all black, looking like SWAT team members, with military gear. So it's just really suspicious that they act that way. And when I approached the building, I even had a guy who was undercover. I would have never known he was an undercover narcotics agent whatsoever, but the guy jumped in front of me while I was live on the radio to tell me to not film him because he's an undercover agent, when all he had to simply do was just park his car and walk into his office, and no one would have ever known, you know?
Yeah.
Trying to set you up. So, Joe, do you think that this is the actual implementation of the National Defense Authorization Act?
I mean, it definitely very well could be. I mean, going somewhere and seeing that place, I mean, it looks like a scene from a horror movie. I mean, to hear these people say that they were held there and just could hear screams and would see pools of blood, I mean, that's something that no one should ever have to go through here.
Yeah, not in America. So, you went and you did the mainstream media's job by actually reporting what was happening and then also questioning, hey, should we be having black sites? Should we be eliminating due process? I mean, you're actually questioning what's going on, and you're going to the sites, which no one else is doing, really. So you did the man on the streets after you guys brought attention to this issue. People actually started to say, "Hey, I don't want this in my neighborhood." So you went by and talked to these people, and what were their concerns? Because I heard on one of the videos of a guy there, he could have been a provocateur, I don't know, but he was talking about how communism is basically the answer to all this police state stuff. I don't know if I heard it wrong, but it was on one of your videos that some guy was talking about. I thought that was so interesting that, that's the answer, is just more government, more socialism.
This is a ridiculous group of people called RevCom, and I run into them on many trips. These are the guys who were inciting 90% of the violence, I would say, in Ferguson back in August when the initial riots broke out. They're the ones who are giving these young black teenagers a Molotov cocktail and giving them a megaphone and getting them amped up and then going, "Hey, man, go ahead and throw it at the cops, and then they would step back. These guys are bad news, man, and they show up to any kind of activist-type movement, and they try to just completely flip it and turn it into something that it shouldn't be. And that's exactly what you heard, was this guy just spouting this communist propaganda BS and just essentially trying to take over the entire movement, so to say, and trying to get this black site closed and talking about that. It was just ridiculous.
Do you think these RevCom guys are part of COINTELPRO?
I mean, I'm sure somebody inside there could be. I mean, so many places get infiltrated by people. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean, they show up to every little event. They were at the Trayvon Martin thing. I mean, they're the ones who try to get everything sparked up. I mean, they're basically just like provocateurs.
Yeah, they want to delegitimize the actual protest of a black site, which is completely, eliminates the Bill of Rights. It's completely ridiculous. So we've seen a lot of stuff's been happening, man. 2015's been just in these last 4 months, it just everything's they're hitting us at every from every level, every aspect. I feel like we got this Jade Helm operation, which you guys have been covering since it kind of came out, and then I saw that you and Jakari were going to go try to cover the Richmond, California drill, the Dirty Bomb drill, but then we're denied because you guys are conspiracy theorists for just covering what is happening and showing people what's happening. I just thought that was unbelievable. And then the video came out of them actually training, and it was all about fighting off and detaining sovereign citizens and constitutionalists.
Yeah, that was the interesting thing. I went through the proper chain of commands. I called this Captain Will Martin. He's a deputy director of public affairs for the California Military Department. And, I said, "Hey, sir, I'd really be interested in flying in and covering your drill. Your drill to see what's going on, to see what, you guys are going to be talking about." And, the way they made it seem like it was just going to be this dirty bomb drill. And then, 3 days later, I guess he decided to finally Google me. And he sent me this email. It says, "Upon reviewing your body of work, the California Military Department has chosen to decline you and Jakari Jackson media access to the emergency response exercises involving the California National Guard on April 11th in Richmond, California. The nature of your work and the media programs in which you regularly participate in, i.e. the Alex Jones Show, are consistently conspiratorial and inflammatory in nature. Therefore, we hold little confidence that granting you access to this exercise would result in fair coverage."
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So, who are they to deem what is fair
What's fair?
coverage? Because they're right. If I would have went to that and heard these guys chanting, "Hey, I'm a sovereign citizen," "Hey, I'm a constitutionalist," and then the military runs up and throws them on the ground, yeah, that's a big problem. That's a big issue. And they knew that what they're doing is wrong, which is why they deny us access to this thing.
Yeah, but they know you're not like the mainstream. They're going to say this is for our freedom, right?
Yeah, I mean, because what they do, I mean, it's the same BS. Every time I go to some little event, they hand out these, media things, these paperworks that it just have, like, cruddy, like, questions. Like, what's your favorite color? Where do you like the summer at? Just like these aren't hard-hitting questions. I want to know why you're throwing these guys to the ground.
Yeah.
And the fact that you had to insinuate the fact that these guys are constitutionalists, I mean, that's out of control.
Yeah, so we've got Jade Helm coming up, which has now been widely publicized. I mean, I heard it on the radio. Joe Pags, this big national talk show host, was basically, poking fun at the idea that his callers are actually concerned. They're calling in saying, hey, Joe, what's your viewpoint on this whole Jade Helm operation? And he brushes it off as if every one of his callers is some conspiracy quack. But he doesn't deny that it's actually going to happen. So it's just so mind-blowing to me that they're, it's actually in the mainstream news, but they're just refusing to even analyze it because they don't do that. They can analyze, Kim Kardashian's ass or whatever, but they can't analyze whether military should be operating in plain clothes for 8 weeks, over 2 months, all over the states, and then deeming them hostile territory. But then they're claiming that it's for overseas, correct?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. But, I mean, like you said, like I've said before in the past many times, you train how you fight, which means you're going to train in the environment in which you will deploy to. So we're seeing these areas pop up all over the country, like Fort A.P. Hill, where there's a church and a soccer field. There's a Marine Corps base up in North Carolina that has the exact same type deal with the church and all this different stuff. And now you have this Jade Helm exercise where people are going to be running around, and they say they're going to be undercover to blend in with the population, but the area, the theater of operation where they're going to deploy to is going to be overseas. So how is it for them to blend in with a bunch of Americans,
a bunch of white
dudes?
dudes?
How is that going to be any kind of training?
And
when they go over to Iraq or Afghanistan or Syria, they're going to stick out like a sore thumb. They should train in an environment that will be suitable and identical to where they're going. And that's the thing, though. They are. That the fight's here.
Yeah, it's amazing. Joe, didn't the military admit to you through correspondence that it was a psyop too?
Yes, a guy that works for Special Operations Command down in Tampa, Florida. He hit me up and he's like, "Dude, man, why you keep talking about this Jade Helm?" He's like, "Just leave it alone. It's a psyop, man. Just leave it alone."
Don't cover it. You're blowing her cover.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
ridiculous.
And I was like, you know what you just gave me? I was like, you just gave me a bigger story than what I had before to prove the point.
Yeah.
Just like when the guy denied me access to the California drill.
It just proved your point that it was for sovereign citizen and constitutionalists here at home. It proved the point because they didn't want they knew that you would just cover it, and they don't want people seeing that it's going to be about sovereign citizens.
Another interesting thing too, though, there's a lot of military who are coming out and saying, "Hey, man, this is wrong."
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah. We need that.
Yeah, exactly. But, that's where people need to open their eyes to. That's where the mainstream media needs to go, okay, well, this is interesting. It's not just these tinfoil hat guys that we make fun of all the time. The actual military itself, members of the military are saying, hey, this is not right. This is a little weird. Something is odd about this entire operation. Why are we doing this? Why is this going on? Does it need to really happen?
Yeah, Joe, isn't it true that you pretty much sign away your rights, though, when you work for the government? Or, you work for the military, right? The U.S. military, right?
Yeah, in a sense. If you run your mouth, I used to get in trouble all the time because I would question stuff. I wasn't a robot. I didn't just follow orders.
Yeah.
But, that's what these guys do. That's why they dumb people down at a young age, and when they're private, is to try to brainwash them. There is a psyop that the military pushes out on the public, and then there's this inter-psyop that they use on soldiers to brainwash them through that entire period while they're going to be in the military. Yeah. So, it's just a big psyop all the time. You don't ever know who's telling the truth of that stuff, what your orders are. It's out of control.
And so, Joe, they've labeled Texas and Utah as hostile areas in this Jade Helm exercise?
Yeah.
That seems very interesting, considering Texas and Utah probably have one of the most, per capita, the highest gun ownership food storage or independent. I mean, that just seems very interesting. And that's actually really want to move. I want to move to either Utah or Texas. I got to get out of California sometime. But that's very interesting that our own U.S. military is viewing those in operations as hostile. Do you think that this is in your gut? Do you think that there's going to be some sort of false flag? Because, there's so many operations now going on. I mean, how can we even tell? I mean, if we say, hey, there could be a false flag, everyone says, oh, you're discredited because a false flag didn't happen. But, man, this is going to be an 8-week drill, this Jade Helm, and it's going to be over like half the United States. You think there's going to be something big that happens?
I mean, it's a possibility. The part of the PSYOP is the fact that conditioning the troops as well. You keep telling these troops, hey, man, this is just a training exercise. This is just training exercise. And then they go, hey, we're going to use live ammo. That's part of the training exercise.
Oh.
Meanwhile, people are really being taken and held against their will. That's the PSYOP that has to be broken, is the fact that people are going to know when it's not going to be a training exercise and when it's going to be real. And if it is real one day, they're going to go, oh, it's just a training exercise. The next thing you know, the military is trying to bang on your door and take your guns and, your family away. And then the soldiers themselves are going to be like, why are these people fighting back? I thought this was a training exercise.
Yeah.
These guys are really good actors because they're screaming and crying and fighting.
And bleeding.
And, so that's the whole thing. That's the scary part. But that many operations going on simultaneously over that a large amount of time, there's going to be some confusion.
It's insane and insidious by the government, and they talk about also in this Jade Helm about how they're going to infiltrate local communities with military personnel wearing plain clothes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they say clearly in the document that they will be performing suspicious activity.
Yeah, to see if the public
I'm really
catches.
glad that there's a lot of ex-Special Forces guys, Green Berets, Navy SEALs, who are running a counter Operation Jade Helm, and they're going to be deploying out to all these different locations, clearly for reporting purposes, in a sense, nonviolent. But they go out with radios and see if they can call out these guys and bring it to attention. They'll have a website up where they post, people's spottings and findings.
Yeah.
But, it's good to see a lot of people are concerned about it as much as I am. Because, like I said, the big problem is knowing or not knowing when it goes from a training exercise to, all right, it's happening for real now.
Yeah, I think, with the Boston bombing, you guys definitely exposed that quick. That's why they couldn't keep the narrative, towards constitutionalists, white American, angry at the government. They had to go to their backup plan, the Zarnev brothers or whatever. And he just got proven guilty because he couldn't even talk. And his brother was shot. But we saw with the Boston bombing that the military did go door to door. And within a 20-mile radius, they basically had martial law. And people, it wasn't a huge deal. I remember working with people. I used to work at a bar, and my coworkers were like cheering on CNN. They were like, "Yes, get the bastard," or whatever. When they had martial law, and they were just going door to door trying to find one of the brothers, and the public was basically cheering it on. It was in a positive light, but we've seen it happen. This martial law already. And so, who knows how big this operation could be and what could happen. What if a nuke goes off, I'm not saying that'll happen, but man, there's nukes missing. Apparently there was a couple of years ago. So who knows, and with the borders wide open, that's a whole nother issue, but.
Yeah, I've definitely seen the borders.
Yeah.
Wide open.
Joe, did you guys have any more information about how any of this Jade Helm ties into the Walmart closures? Because there's a lot of speculation on the internet.
Yeah, that's a big speculation.
Yeah.
I actually put out a video earlier today about that, and so did Paul Joseph Watson. What Paul Joseph Watson has found out, and Kurt Nemo, one of our writers, is that they believe this is due to basically a lot of protesting.
The minimum wage or something?
Upset with the fact that they weren't making the money that they wanted to make. And Walmart kind of just said, all right, well, if you guys aren't going to work, we're just going to close down these Walmarts.
And they didn't want the bad publicity about the whole minimum wage thing, probably so. But, the Walmart thing has got to be speculation because, it's the free market. If they want to shut down some of their stores, who cares? But, yeah, if it were more like, 100 stores, that would be a big deal. But I don't know. It's all speculation. Let's get into the clearly, the borders are wide open, as you've shown us. Let's get into this ISIS camp that was reported by Judicial Watch. You went to Mexico. Was it the city of Anapra, right?
Yeah, an opera. I went there by myself. I actually had like a local drive me around, but that's the most dangerous city in the world. I mean, more people are murdered, heads cut off, Colombian neckties. It is a very, very serious place to be because it's predominantly run by the cartels, and it's just right outside of Juarez on the other side of this Cristo Rey mountain range in Sunland Park, New Mexico. And I mean, it's a whole other world. I mean, I got into Juarez, and I'm thinking, all right, it's cleaned up a bit. It's not as bad as it was for the past 8 years because, from what I found out, one of the drug cartels won. There was 3 drug cartels fighting over Juarez for that area because there's a lot of drug flow that comes through there.
Yeah.
And one of the cartels won, so the violence has subsided quite a bit. But there's a huge presence in Anapra that is, I would say, probably 90%, cartel related in some kind of way. And that's where the Judicial Watch report came about. They said that that's an area where they have reports that there's ISIS operating in that town due to Mexican military officials and police. So I went down there to find out whether or not it was true. I rented a plane. I flew over Anapra. I found some compounds. I went back, studied the film, and then I decided to just man up and just go into Mexico into the dangerous place by myself with some GoPro cameras and see what I could find out. I found some really interesting compounds. And, I didn't find ISIS, obviously, but what I did find is that this area looks a lot like Iraq.
Yeah.
And this is a spot that they could, if they wanted to be there, and I'm not saying they're not there because there's a lot of compounds I couldn't see over. I could have been standing outside of a compound, one of the times that I was out there, and ISIS could have been on the other side for all I know.
Yeah.
But it's an area that they would flourish because it's very,
It's like their terrain over in Iraq, sort of, right? Or over in the Middle East, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's very poverty-stricken, a lot of crime, and it's just a place that they would breed in and just blend into without being seen. And a lot of people, the locals we talked to, like, no, we haven't seen anybody really. One guy goes, if I knew, I wouldn't tell you. But you got to think those big compounds in Iraq and Afghanistan, those people, those families will live in those compounds and never even come out of them for years on end. So those guys could clearly be in one of those areas. They have enough food and water, and they could be there. But the interesting part, though, is my trip was coming to an end, and I was about 6 hours out from getting on the plane to fly back to Austin, Texas. And the guy that I had drive me calls me and goes, hey, man, the FBI is looking for you. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's interesting. So I was like, all right, well, did you get his name, number, or anything like that so I can look him up and see if this guy's legit, make sure I'm not, having smoke blowing up my butt?
Yeah.
So I get this guy's name. I call the FBI field office in El Paso, and his name checks out. So I told him that, hey, if you want, I'm going to be at the airport. So he came to the airport and brought another agent as well. And he goes, why are you out here? And I was like, well, I'm trying to find out if ISIS is over the border. And he goes, well, why would you want to do that? I was like, well, I'm an American citizen. I'm concerned. This is my country. Even though if I don't live in El Paso, it doesn't mean that I don't care about the people of El Paso. I don't want these terrorist assholes to come over the wide open borders that our government refuses to fix and put up like they say they will from time and time again, and on mainstream media saying, oh, the borders are fine. If these guys come across the border and hit our people, I'm going to feel mainly responsible because if I didn't go out there and do something, that means I just sat back and watched.
But yeah,
so I told the guy straight up.
Joe, do you think that ISIS could be working with the drug cartels? I mean, because they're both crime syndicates, right?
I mean, I'm sure they could use them for protection in a sense because, that's an area that they're going to run. Yeah. But if ISIS is, operating in that area, they would have to play by the cartel rules.
Yeah.
That's an area that's their turf. That's their land. These guys aren't going to, bend over. I mean, I don't see ISIS taking over one of those areas like that because those guys have the guns. They have the money. They've been there the longest. They're kingpins. They're not going to let somebody come in. So, I mean, I'm sure there could be some kind of mutual agreement.
Yeah.
But, when I was talking to that Fed, I had Josh Owens, my camera guy. He was sitting there with me just kind of as backup to make sure that, we had two people listening to what was going on.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, so you're here because of the Judicial Watch report? And I'm, yeah. I was like, quite frankly, I wanted to come down and see if any of this is true or not. And I said, well, what do you think about the Judicial Watch? And he goes, I think they're a very highly credible source.
Yeah.
And we don't take any of the claims that they ever make lightly.
Yeah.
And we look into everything that they do. And the guy goes, quite frankly, I just want to know how you made it into Mexico and out without getting killed. And then secondly, he wanted to say, hey, you got the biggest set of balls I've ever seen on anybody, because we're never going to go in there. We're too scared to go.
Yeah, well, you're an investigative reporter, Joe, so you just went and did your job. I mean,
A real American patriot.
Yeah, I mean, and it's right across, it's right across where you live, basically. I mean, you're from Texas, I mean, that's where the border is. I mean, you want to know if your buddies in El Paso, if there's a potential threat coming their way. I mean, you doing your job, and then you have people basically, questioning and almost ridiculing the fact that you just went over and put your life on the line. And I saw the video. I mean, yeah, it looks like a war-torn country over there, really. And it's just across our border, which is just unbelievable to think about. But you're just doing your job. And, I mean, shoot, the FBI clearly realizes that Judicial Watch is credible. And so you took the initiative and went over there, and that's why they contacted you, because they thought, hey, there's probably ISIS over there with the borders wide open.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he says if they're not over there right now, he says they'll be over there sometime soon. He said because it's a very wide open area and it'd be easy for them to move around. And I said, well, I agree. I mean, the last place I served in the Army was at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. So I spent about 3 years there, and I've got to know almost everyone in that town quite a bit, so that El Paso is like a second home to me. I have a lot of friends and family in that area that I care about dearly. And like I said, if something like that happens and I didn't make an effort, I would have blamed myself for a long time. And all we can do is try to bring this to the surface that, hey, when we say the borders are wide open, we're not doing it because we're racist. We're not saying that because we're, mean and we don't care about other people. Yes, this is a country that's founded on, immigrants, but at the same time, there's a lot of enemies out there who want to come in, who want to do harm. Yeah. And the border is a serious, serious issue. And we had opportunities. Josh, the camera guy, he spoke to the Border Patrol agent when I was in Mexico on the other side, and he goes, the Border Patrol agent told him, hey, this is the most traffic spot for illegals at nighttime. He said there's thousands of people who come through this area because from Anapra into Sunland Park, New Mexico, right there, there's no fence.
Yeah.
Anybody can walk in. There's these huge crevices that people can walk through and hide in. And he said it's not unusual at night to hear gunfire, these coyotes killing people off because they didn't get the money they wanted. I mean, there's no telling who is coming in there because they don't have enough Border Patrol out there to even look, much less even put cameras up. You would think in an area where there's no border, they would put cameras up. But they don't even put money on that. What they do is they build these nice Border Patrol facilities. They're like 123 miles in the border, and then they hassle American citizens to ask you whether or not you're an American citizen, when, quite frankly, the money should be spent on the facilities at the border because of the Border Patrol and keeping these ISIS bloodthirsty maniacs out of our country.
Joe, isn't all that proof of the fraud of the TSA and Homeland Security right there, shaking down American citizens at the airport, for example?
Yeah, exactly. If you're ISIS, you want to come to America, the way it looks from the outside is like, hey, come on. But if you're an American citizen and you want to move around freely in your own country, it's like you're a criminal. And they want to monitor us. They want to give us driverless cars so we can't even make our decisions as to what we're going to do or where we're going to go. They want to tell us we have to take vaccines. They want to tell us all this stuff and cage us up like animals. I mean, it's ridiculous. We have all these people in prison for nonviolent crimes. I mean, it's just out of control. We, as the American citizens, we the people, are the number one enemy to our government.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and the cartels are basically they're a terrorist operation pretty much. They're a criminal operation, and the war on drugs is the reason that they're still operating. I mean, if marijuana and cocaine or whatever other drug you could think of is just legal, I mean, I could buy it from, my partner here just down the road or whatever, or my neighbor. It wouldn't matter. I wouldn't need to get it from the cartel. There's money in it. That's why the cartels are still in operation. And then when we have no border, it's just total hypocrisy that there's even a war on drugs when really we need to be locking down the border. And just if there's any issues with cartels, just let's make drugs legal. It's victimless crimes, and it will keep, victimless criminals or, people that are in jail for victimless crimes. They'll be out of jail, and because we got to pay for that. That's the taxpayers' dollars paying for these people to sit in jail. There's not even a victim. I mean, how can you be a victim? How can you commit a crime against yourself? It's just such a fraud, and that's how we get rid of the cartels.
And there's so many people right now who are on heroin who are just completely out of control, addicted. I mean, Vermont is just being cleaned out with drug addiction when it comes to heroin. And ever since the U.S. government, the military has been in Afghanistan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The sales for the opium and all that have gone up like 900%. I mean, it is ridiculous. When the Taliban was at the top of their control in 2001, I think they supplied only like 7%, 10% of the world's opium.
Yeah.
Afghanistan did, and now it's like a 98%.
Yeah, it's like 96%. Yeah, that's been reported for years too, and you can see the motives for us wanting to go over there and control that area because there's a lot of money in it, while degenerating America here, which is they want to destroy America. These elites, so it works both ways for. I mean, it works either way. They look at it, and I actually had a buddy that was also a Marine who went to Afghanistan. He said all he could tell me about why he was there is that they just, secured areas and they confiscated heroin. They confiscated a lot of heroin. They would burn it or they would, put it somewhere else. They didn't even know. They were just told what to do. And most of it was just confiscating stuff. And so it shows you the fraud. I mean, Afghanistan didn't even attack us. It's one thing that that Al-Qaeda, could have been there or whatever. But Iraq, Afghanistan, the governments didn't attack us, so there was no justification for us to even be there. But obviously, you know all about that since you served tours there, and you know the fraud of the war on terror. But man, it's just with the war on drug, it basically solidifies that that is the reason the government wants drugs illegal. It's profitable, and that's why they work with the cartels.
Well, and let's not forget Operation Fast and Furious, right?
Yeah,
where our government was shipping guns to Mexico.
Yeah, that just proves it. To try to discredit the Second Amendment and keep us from protecting ourselves against the criminal cartels and potentially ISIS, it's just unbelievable. Joe, so what do you have to say to all the haters? Because it seems like lately all the haters have been coming out of the woodwork because you've been the tip of the spear and reporting things that other investigative journalists per se, from CNN or MSNBC, all these, cartoon news networks, they won't go do the job. So you do it. And all these haters are coming out. What do you have to say to these people that, you're just doing your job. You're just going and reporting and then also giving your analysis. They can look at it any way they want, but you're putting your, neck on the line, going to Mexico and trying to investigate. What do you have to say to these people?
Well, most of these guys, I want to say hi to them from their mom's basement. Don't forget your rent's due soon, so make sure you pay your mom.
Yeah, it's probably only about $50.
It's funny. It's just a bunch of little internet trolls. I get a lot of them will just start calling me out on stuff, and what do your tattoos mean? You're a secret government agent.
Yeah.
Infiltrate InfoWars. And I'm like, dude. I was like, you guys really have nothing else to do. I was like, there's so many people that say they're part of the truth movement, and they're more concerned about attacking within than they are taking that energy and going after the real enemy, going after the corrupt government, going after the tyranny, the people who are really trying to essentially take our liberties away and enslave us. And they're more worried about what my tattoos mean, or, you didn't find ISIS in Mexico. That's a fake story. Well, you know what? I didn't find it, and I never said I did.
Yeah, you never claimed that you found them.
And I did talk to the FBI, and they did say that it was a very plausible thing. That's something that could very much happen, and they expect it to happen in the near future. And then the source that I went down there solely based off, they say is a very highly credible source. They chased all the leads that come out of those Judicial Watch reports. So, the way I look at it, if I'm taking flack, that means I'm standing over the target and I'm doing the right thing. So, haters can hate all day long. I don't really care. I'm going to do what I believe in. I'm going to do what I have to do. So when it's time for me to go to bed at night, I sleep good. I don't want to have any restless nights thinking, hey, I should have did this. I didn't do that. Why didn't I do this? When I do my job, at the end of the day, I feel good. I know I've done something right. And I'm going to keep doing that. And if people hate it, whatever. I don't care.
Absolutely.
Well, you're doing investigations because you're an investigative journalist, and they want to say that something's wrong when you didn't find something that they're speculating about, but you're doing an investigation, right?
You're not claiming anything. You're going to say, hey, let's see if this report was true. That's all you're saying.
Like my first report, I said I'm standing in El Paso, right across the border of where the Judicial Watch reports claim that there's ISIS.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're
And
not
then,
saying,
then I
man.
go look to see whether or not I can find them. It's like they expected me to like get on film like a whole bunch of jihadis running around with ISIS flags, like a marching in all black or whatever. Like, okay, first off, they're in Mexico, so they're going to be trying to blend in. They're not going to be in all black garb with ISIS flags running around, because a lot of those people in Anap are going to be like, oh, hey, Kate, oh, buddy, you know what? Get the hell out of here.
Seriously. No, and they're not willing to go out and do it, Joe. That's really what it comes down to. They want to hate because you're at the tip of the spear doing the job of the mainstream media, and you're definitely over the target because the FBI is contacting you. And it's not just some fake troll. The FBI is legitimately asking you, hey, what we need some intelligence from you. I mean, what's going on there, you know? Because they won't even do it.
That scared me, too. The FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Yeah.
It's coming to me for intel. I'm like, wow, dude. Y'all need to. Where's all this money we send you guys?
Exactly. Why don't? Yeah. Can't they have their own base over there? They could have their own. You know, the FBI can have their own office over there, living good with all the money we give them. I mean, geez, billions of dollars are given. The taxpayers' dollars are given to the FBI every year to make sure that they're funded. So.
Well, you know, with all the haters and trolls out there, if they were real, then they would be doing their own reports and not bashing your reports. They would.
Well, that's what I tell people. I'm like, hey, man, if you got a better outlook on something,
go to Mexico.
You know, go out and get you a little small camera, turn your iPhone around, point it at yourself, do a video, put it up, and get your point of view out there.
Yeah. Now, Joe, you should do a video. Just say, "Hey, haters, go to Mexico and do the report that I did, and see if they'll do it."
I told one guy, I was like, "There's no way you're going to get your butt up off your mom's couch in the basement and put your Cheetos down and actually go risk your life to do something for your country." I was like, "You're just going to sit there and troll type away all day and then try to like hate on me because I'm actually going out and looking into something."
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we appreciate all the work you do, Joe. Keep it up. You're definitely at the tip of the spear. Breaking news. Any last words? You want to plug some websites? Anything?
Yeah, you know, just make sure that you keep paying attention to these guys. They're doing awesome as well. And then, you know, you can always find me on Facebook or Twitter. My Twitter is @RamboBiggs, and then my Facebook is Joe Biggs. So, I mean, I put up all my reports on there. I'm sharing their guys' stuff. So, I mean, hey, we're all in this together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Joe. We'll talk to you soon, and keep up the good work.
We appreciate your work, Joe.
Hey, I thank you. And like I said, man, you guys are doing a hell of a job, man. I appreciate that as well.
Well, you guys inspire us. So, you know, you're creating more people that are going to do, you know, help. We got your back. You're creating more of yourself, bro. So we appreciate it. All right, you have a good night.
You too, brother.
Bye, Joe.
See ya.
See ya.
We back on? Oh, I guess we are. Folks, Weaponized News, weaponizednews.com. Please check out our website. You just heard an interview with Joe Biggs, Infowars.com reporter, investigative reporter. Joe's been doing the mainstream media's job for, you know, I mean, months now. And he just went across the border to investigate a report about an ISIS camp. And, yeah, he didn't find anything, but, man, he went over there and investigated because Judicial Watch is credible. The FBI even admits that Judicial Watch is very highly credible, and we usually go off of their reports for intel. So Joe got contacted by the FBI because he's the tip of the spear. He is actually doing real investigative journalism, investigative reporting. And, man,
and the government
haters,
and the mainstream media have untold funding, and they refuse to do their job.
And all they can talk about is Kim Kardashian's ass and how we need to go back to war.
Adult coloring books.
A million were sold or something, right, Sam? A million color books were sold just recently for adults. So that's the kind of people that are in our society. I mean, that's the kind of people that our society has created. People that just watch Dancing with the Stars just have no opinions about anything, and you know don't know right from left, and they don't even know what ISIS is. Most people don't even know what ISIS is, or they might think they know, but haven't really looked into it. See, the problem is haters. They're not willing to do their own reports. They're not willing to do their own investigations, their own research. When was the last time a YouTube troll that just mocks, you know, people that are trying to report and actually do something about what's happening in this country? When was the last time those people have read a book about propaganda or tragedy and hope? Like Sam's reading this, 13-page, 100-page book
or
about...
read any Bertrand Russell.
Yeah, it's so... geez, I mean, pick up a book or start reading some credible news articles, which is basically not the mainstream media for the most part, and start doing your own research and creating your own analysis.
Definitely not nothing on television.
Exactly, and you need to figure out whether you want liberty or tyranny, and that's really what it comes down to. What leans more to liberty, what leans more to tyranny, analyze it and figure out what way we need to go, okay? Start actually thinking for yourself. But anyway, we appreciate Joe coming on the show and all other guests that we have that grace us with their presence. We have some great guests on, so we appreciate that. Please visit their websites, and please visit our website, weaponizednews.com. We're putting up articles daily, and Sam and I work really hard every day, and then we get off work and we still work hard to fight tyranny and do the best job we can to bring the best content to you and the best analysis, research, etc., etc. So please like us on Facebook, like us on YouTube, or subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, and just support us. And, we'd appreciate it. We have to fund alternative media operations because the mainstream media is not doing the job that Joe Biggs is doing of Infowars.com. They're not doing it. The FBI is not even doing it. I mean, geez. Will anyone investigate? No. Only alternative media outlets that have the balls.
No, because they have to push the mainstream establishment propaganda and lies to degenerate society, because that's what they're there for, not to inform the public so we can move forward as a society. They are there to do the job of collapsing our society.
Yeah, the mainstream will inform us only if it's with their agenda, only if it fits their agenda, like the whole...
transgender bathrooms.
Yes, of course. They might inform you. The mainstream media does an okay job about reporting, but they don't give you any analysis, and half the time they won't even report stuff. So when they do,
the government's
reports,
always correct in everything they do, and we just have to listen to the government, even though we're basically a failed state, a failed country at this point. Over $18 trillion in debt. We'll never pay it off, but yet we still have to listen to the government.
That is the difference. They might report on Jade Helm, but they won't tell you that.
They'll never be critical of it.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone can report what's happening.
They'll literally say it's for your freedom. But martial law is for your freedom.
Yeah, but analyzing it is a whole different story. Okay, and at this point,
critical analysis. That's scary.
Exactly, critical thinking and analyzing the situation, what's being reported, and seeing whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Okay, the mainstream doesn't do that anymore unless it's for their agenda, unless it correlates with their agenda. If it lines up, if it's paralleling, then that's okay. Transgender bathrooms, of course. Sex ed in school, yes, of course. That's the
illegal
state needs
aliens.
to teach.
Oh no, I'm sorry, undocumented. But they are documented somewhere, but just not in the United States.
They're not immigrants. They're migrants, Sam. Mm-hmm. Remember, they're migrants. Mm-hmm. You can't say immigrants or emigrants because that's racist.
And they continue to push the political correctness, dumbing down of the language and dumbing down of society.
Yeah, basically the mainstream media won't be critical of anything, even if they do report on it, and they will tell you that you shouldn't be critical of it because the state is God, and we need to listen to them.
Try to lay some guilt trip on you.
Or you're a conspiracy theory kook.
You're a tinfoil hat wearer.
Man.
That doesn't work anymore because your mainstream media is mindless to anybody that has the IQ higher than 10.
Yeah, and these big national radio hosts that sometimes they say a lot of good things that I do agree with, but then when callers call in about this real situation of, hey, they're doing military operations all over the United States, Jade Helm is on the books saying they're going to run operations in plain clothes, and they laugh at them.
They're intellectually bankrupt using ad hominem attacks, logical fallacies. For anybody who's educated in logic and reason, they look like fools to me because anybody that brings up a counterpoint to them and actually wants to have a real discussion, they just laugh it off and call you tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist.
Well, because it's the consensus, Sam. It's the consensus
that
the government
intellectually dishonest.
Exactly. Oh, we don't want to listen to those other 9,000 scientists that say, humans aren't creating global warming. No, we don't want to listen to those guys. We'll listen to Al Gore and our government paid by the government scientists. That they say, yes, and Bill Nye the Science Guy, yes, humans are bad for the earth. We need to carbon tax everyone. And that's the consensus. They never show the other side. It's just whatever fits the government narrative, their agenda, that is the consensus, okay? Just like how, what was it, Hillary Clinton that said, she said, the sky's blue, the grass is green. climate change is humans are causing global warming, something to that effect. Basically, putting two truths that are obvious with something that is actually not. There's no consensus when you look at people that actually oppose it, and there's a majority opposes it.
They're
Honestly.
professional liars,
Yeah.
and they're using mind control techniques against us. Logical fallacies. If you
There
can
we go.
understand
Logical
this,
fallacies.
then you can see through their lies because they're talking to you like you're a 5-year-old child when you should have the intellect of a grown-up adult.
So if you're fed up what's going on, okay, you need to start, instead of complaining, start your own media operation, okay? Sam's been researching for years, 8 years. I've been doing it for a couple years now. And I was sick of it. And guess what? It's like Mikhail Thalen told us last week. He said, I had to do something. I couldn't just let the government traffic children without me speaking out against it or taking action.
This is a bad thing.
Say it's wrong.
Yeah,
Exactly.
these are bad people.
Yeah, it's not just the government stealing money and embezzling money and, corruption, and, them ordering prostitutes with taxpayers' dollars. No, they're trafficking children. They're taking old ladies' houses that are already paid off. It goes on and on. I mean, these are Satan worshipers, these elites.
With nuclear weapons.
Yeah. But they're mad that Iran wants to have a nuclear weapon when every country around them has nukes. Well, of course. Of course you would want to have a nuclear weapon to defend yourself. It only makes sense. Should we give up our nuclear weapons? Oh, no, because whatever we say goes. And I'm not saying us as the American people. I'm saying our corrupt government, ran by central bankers, as Sam always talks about, that's who our government is. And they've made the consensus that they've come to the consensus that, America, whatever decision our government makes that we've approved,
but it's not
we
our
are
government.
right, no matter what. Yeah,
it's not the people's government.
We're not being represented.
It's the international bankers' government. They are a corporate crony capitalist fascists.
Yes,
that's who is the government. It's not elected by the people. It's selected by the international bankers at such meetings as Bilderberg, Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations, and on down the list of all these global think tank meetings that they have all the time, every year, on record. That is who your government is. It's not elected by the people.
And let's talk a little bit about these, Bilderberg meetings, Council on Foreign Relations, these elite clubs, Bohemian Grove. Sam and I are not saying that they made you slip on a banana peel, okay? when you slam your finger into the car door, no, the Illuminati and the Bilderberg group did not make that happen. They do not control everything, okay? They shape policy, especially here in the States.
Behind closed doors at secret meetings.
Exactly. That's
the issue.
They fund and set policy.
That affects our lives. That we have no input into whatsoever for their own profit and self-interest.
And when local governments stand up to it, you notice that, there are real changes being made and there is backlash, okay? So we're not saying that every local government is infiltrated by Bilderberg.
Illuminati.
Yeah. And Bilderberg attendees are in every single local government.
That's just not practical.
It's not practical. But we know the elites that are printing money, counterfeiting our dollars, selling our debt to China.
They have control of the monetary supply.
Exactly. They have control of the monetary supply.
The issuance of currency and credit.
Exactly. They control that, so they can print. They get the new money first before the price of everything goes up. So they get it. They selectively give it to whoever they want. Pump up the stock market, whatever. Sell debt to China. They control the monetary system, which allows them to put in people in government that will the yes men. Yeah. They put in the yes men. They fund their campaigns. They do what they say. Those people are even at some level, they're brainwashed. I mean, they are compartmentalized at some level too.
For sure.
At some point.
For sure.
Devin Nunes.
You have to go through all these crazy rituals to be part of it. So, they're under mind control as well.
Exactly, like Devin Nunes, for example. I don't believe Devin Nunes is in some secret cult, Illuminati, Bilderberg, but I'm not saying that he isn't. I'm just saying that he is a low-level compartmentalized congressman. He's
on a power trip.
On a power trip that thinks, I'm on the intelligence committee. Oh yeah, and there's real terrorists. And he's brainwashing himself because they fund his operation. Okay, and he's definitely getting money from NSA groups. Because he wants to. When Justin Amash was running on the fact that he's going to shut down he's going to work to shut down the NSA's water. And just not fund the NSA in certain areas. Devin Nunes campaigned against him with a guy that was pro-NSA spying. So obviously and it's not because for Al-Qaeda.
He
so
doesn't
he's
even
obviously
have to
getting
be,
money.
Stuart, he doesn't even have to be in some secret group or anything.
Exactly.
He's part of the GOP establishment.
Yes.
That is enough right there at this
That's
point
a compartmentalized group right there.
Hey, we have the Republicans have control of both houses of the Congress. And
why isn't the Fed abolished, right?
Why is Obama not impeached?
There we go.
Obamacare. Why haven't we repealed Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act? We have seen no positive action toward repealing anything that the Democrats have done that we're all supposed to be against. Nothing.
Isn't that funny how we don't cover that enough? I mean, no one does. Sam's exactly right. Why isn't Obama impeached? I remember
repeal the Affordable Care Act. Do something.
Yeah,
for crying out loud.
I remember after the November election,
because they're all in it together in the same club.
Yeah, after the November election,
that's all public knowledge. That's no. I mean, give me a freaking break already.
After the November election, basically, Sam and I were just hitting this hard. Impeach Obama. Impeach Obama.
He's a war criminal.
You have no excuse now, Republicans. You have no excuse. Nothing's holding you back. But of course, no, you're not going to repeal Obamacare. You're not going to impeach Obama. You have a vested interest, John Boehner, in the healthcare industry.
Mitch McConnell.
Yes. So there's been no attempt, no push to impeach Obama. And we've already forgotten about that. I mean, even Sam and I, there's so much.
So much corruption and crime.
We need more people to get involved.
You can't even keep up with it all, right?
You can't even keep up with it all. We're already talking about Jeb Bush and Hillary. They're hitting us with just ridiculous options, and they're all controlled. It's not going to be a real election.
They're selected by the global elite international bankers, and that's your choice, free America.
Exactly. So, yeah, there's so much to cover. It's just one thing after the next. I mean, yeah, we've got to cover Hillary and Jeb, but we've forgotten that our current president hasn't been ousted yet. Why isn't he out? Oh, yeah. I mean, geez, man.
Executive orders with no Congress.
Let's just ban ammo.
Does whatever he wants.
Let's ban 223 ammo, but then Homeland Security it just buys, millions of rounds of that same ammo or ammo similar to it.
Militarization of local police forces. Yeah. I mean, the corruption is just otherworldly because they're trying to hit us with information overload. It's part of bringing in this new world order. This one world government is to overwhelm us with information so we just shut down. Well, we are not going to. We can run with you.
I think, and we're not all about doom and gloom here, folks, but we are realists, and we have to address the problems.
All it takes is the people standing up and saying no, and we could throw this thing back. I mean, we could turn it back.
If everyone who is listening to this broadcast just said, you know what, I'm after work today, if you have a job, after work today, I'm gonna do a report. If everyone that's listening,
I'm gonna call my representative.
Let's have a call to action.
Something. Yeah, make a flyer.
Absolutely. I actually if you have a phone, check this out. Everyone has smartphones, right? Go Google your congressman's number, Google your assembly person's number in your state that you live in your area that represents you. And then also your state senator that represents you at the state government level. Put those numbers in your phone. I have them in my phone. I've already called their office. You have to start calling your representatives and say, I'm against all these things. I want to call back. I expect it. You demand representation, okay? So we are asking you here at Weaponized News right now, we're going to finish off this first hour by saying, put your representative's number in your phone, call them, say, I am against the SEC taking over the internet by fiat. I am against the borders being wide open. I'm against Jade Helm.
I'm against mandatory vaccinations.
And we've seen in the alternative media, InfoWars, of course, broke the California, when the SB 277 was going to be, there was a hearing on it. They broke the video.
It passed that hearing today. We'll report on that in the second part of the show.
Really? Wow. I don't even think I got to that news.
No public comment. They can't even have public debate about it now.
Wow. Because they know it would fail. And at that meeting before they did that, 100% of the people.
They were lined up out the door on different levels.
And no one agreed with it.
Different stories of the building.
Clearly the people just told you we're against this. And who's funding all these politicians that are saying yes to this?
Big Pharma.
And Merck, I think, right?
Merck's a big one of them, yeah. But a bunch of the pharmaceutical industry.
So, folks, we're in deep trouble. But like Sam said, if everyone just stood up and said no, or a good majority, we could fix this. So, Weaponized News is calling for mandatory accountability of your government. So as citizens, as residents of this area of Fresno, you need to call your congressman, and I'm not saying you need to do this. I mean,
talk
obviously,
to your neighbor, talk to your friends,
do
talk
something.
to your family.
You know, we're not telling you to go. Oh, you know, purchase this and that from our store online. We're just saying, do something to fight the tyranny.
That's all we have is nonviolent
Raise public
resistance and raise public awareness and talk about these serious issues.
Call your representatives at state level, at the congressional level, and let them know how you feel. State your name and start doing reports. Start your own media operation. Start your own radio show. You have the internet. You have YouTube. And do reports about how you need the internet to be free. Do you still want the internet to be free? Have you thought about it? I know it's tough, folks, but you know what? We have to say no. God does not want you to be indifferent. But anyway, we got to go to the second hour. We're going to take a quick break. WeaponizedNews.com. Visit our website. We'll see you on the second half of the show.
Hello friends, Sam Channing reporting to you for WeaponizedNews.com. Today's April 2nd, 2015. As you can see, I'm reading the New York Post, mainstream media. The headline reads, "Stock market rigging is no longer a conspiracy theory." And so, as we've known for a very long time, the stock market is rigged. Wall Street is a pack of criminals looting Main Street. The stock market is rigged. When I started making that claim years ago, that's this reporter John Cruddle, and provided solid evidence, people scoffed. Some called it a conspiracy theory, tinfoil hats, and that sort of stuff. Most people just ignored me. But that's not happening anymore. The dirty secret is out, with stock prices rushing far ahead of economic reality over the last 6 or so years. More experts in the financial markets are coming to the same conclusion, even if they don't fully understand how it's being rigged or the consequences. Goes on to talk about a Wall Street guru here, Ed Yardeni, and he says these markets are all rigged. And I don't say that critically, I just say that factually. And so now we have the mainstream media, the New York Post, which is owned by News Corp, they admit it right here, and the Wall Street Journal, also owned by News Corp, coming out and saying that yes, the stock market is rigged. Down further in this article, he talks about how the Japanese stock market is rigged and how they're probably helping to prop up the American stock market. Foreign central banks, of course, really don't need a discount to buy S&P futures contracts. That's like billionaires chipping cents off coupons. But what the CME's discount tells us is that the Bank of Japan and other central banks are probably already customers. And so the central banks are creating money out of nothing in this fiat debt-based monetary system that they've created for the rest of us slaves to live under. And they're gambling like insane lunatics in the stock market, propping up companies and totally destroying our economy with incorrect valuations. It goes on here to say that America was built on capitalism and free and fair markets. Today's markets aren't fair. In fact, they're unfair because they're putting lots of money into the pockets of a small number of Americans. The bigger problem is this: if stock prices are artificially inflated, nobody can tell what a company is really worth, and banks are going to hesitate to lend money to companies with fuzzy valuations. So there you have it. It's admitted in the mainstream media that yes, the stock market is rigged for the very few 0.01%. Divest yourself from the stock market and invest wisely, my friends. Subscribe to this channel.